The sun rises on a sleepy Pueblo town. The first resident of the region that would 100,000 years later be known as Los Angeles walked around these lonely non-streets looking for a good time. His name was Smilodon, which is the Greek words for knife and tooth. An old knife teeth was a saber-toothed tiger with foot-long fangs and a crushing jaw who preyed on vegetarians and vegans alike. Specifically, mastodons, sloths, camels, which apparently we had. Giant
production assistants.
They're just so tender.
Not their egos.
There's also giant bisons. There was bears of the Pleistocene age. The remains of the Smilodon have been found in locations around Hollywood, Sunset, Wilshire Boulevard. Specifically, the sticky patch of doom we now know as the La Brea tar pits, where many an animal would come drink or attack other drinkers of what they thought was dark water. Dummies. Old knife teeth and other fun creatures of that age died off soon after the mastodon went extinct, most likely after a severe climate change, which, doesn't happen.
No.
Climate change? No, it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
Thousands of years pass by, and after long gaps of time where nothing happens, man happens. Man happens all over the place.
Manhattan?
Manhattan's all over the place.
Not many people know, but Manhattan was originally in Los Angeles.
Manhattan about town. They say
Sex in the tar pit, which is how so many of them were lost. It'll be hot, baby.
It's sticky in like 2 different ways. Maybe 3. They say man came over from Asia with his dog and his longbow from either an ice bridge or a strip of land that no longer exists between Siberia and Alaska, known as the Bering Strait, which is just a theory, but I'm going to go ahead and confirm it and say it's true. And I'm going to tell you I walked it. Although early man didn't come straight to California, what was to become the original people of Los Angeles were said to have drifted down from the Owens Valley by way of the Cajon Pass into what is today San Bernardino. Oh, which is not necessarily Los Angeles, but it's close enough for pre-dawn man.
I don't want to hear it. Yeah, by pre-dawn man standards, it's pretty Los Angeles.
There wasn't any freeways. They had to walk that sucker.
What?
A land before freeways.
Land before freeways.
Isn't it so sad when the freeway's mom dies and this freeway has to go on without her?
My favorite character was Carpool Lady.
Many also say a large portion of that population came from the region we now know as Nevada, and even earlier from farther east, keeping a good distance from more warlike tribes.
There's going to be so much of the phrase "what we now know as" in this episode.
It feels dumb calling it, oh yeah, they came from Nevada. That slanted piece of land right there. Isn't it weird that somebody bought a land that's so slanted, like the edge of California and Nevada? It's through, Mojave Desert?
Well, it's not like a slide. The country isn't vertical.
Isn't it like Connect 4? It's not like Connect 4? This migrating and moving around probably took centuries before they settled anywhere, but it's said they arrived to the Alley Basin about 7,000 years ago. A long time ago.
Those are old people.
Older than you? Older than me, even. Maybe.
Older than you? I don't know.
Son of a... It's my birthday.
It's both of our birthdays. We got our birthdays legally changed to this day, to podcast day.
They rolled their eyes, but they had to do it. It's Prop 66.
When were you born? LA Public Library. I'm bank robbery years old now.
211 years old. Okay, let's talk about the people that settled here. Mm-hmm. It's hard to peg a name.
Emphasis on settled. Mm-hmm. Right. They could have had San Bernardino.
It's hard to peg a name down to the original people of Los Angeles. This is due to the cultural assimilation of the Spanish and the Mexican population that overwrought these people, as you will get into. Mm-hmm. They were called Gabrielenos by those who lived in the same time as them, but this term was used as after the mission of San Gabriel was established, so it's disrespectful, and I'll avoid it as much as I can. Another term thrown around is Tongva, which is something you're going to see more frequently when you do research on this. It was sort of settled upon, I think, in the 90s. It started to regrow. From a historical note, there's a gentleman named J.P. Harrington, and we learned from him that what Tongva means were the people used to ride their steed on the rocks, which might be referencing acorns because they were big on acorn processing.
I once ate acorn mash.
Acorn on the cob. Acorn bread. All night. It is also...
You're a nut.
My favorite part of that was the long silence before you came to that. That was final draft.
I went through so many different vegetables, so many different processes of weaving baskets before I decided on the obvious.
It was pretty obvious. It was like your first choice. You're like, it can't be that good. And then you went through everything else. Like, I'll give him the first one. Tongva has also been interpreted as meaning people of the earth. I also read that Tongva was an Anglo bastardization of the village name Tobiskangna. So I'm probably not going to use that.
I don't see it.
You and I attended a meetup of the historical societies at Alvaro Street.
A gathering of the minds.
A gathering of the minds. A gathering of free flyers and candy.
It was the gathering of the pens.
And when we were there, we stopped by a booth for the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians, and they were handing out information sheet that said, "We are not Tongva." The descendants of the original people of Los Angeles refer to themselves and their ancestors as the Kizh, K-I-Z-H, with other spellings and pronunciation, including K-I-J, Kizh, and Quichereno.
And Q-U-I-C-H-E. Oh, that's offensive.
That's offensive.
That's one.
Yeah, there you go. Tally marks. And the other one was Quichereno, which you'll see again. I say it with a rolling R because I'm overcompensating for my lack of Hispanicness.
Could you keep it to a minimum, though, because we're trying to get new listeners. People don't want to tune in to hear Mario Lopez, the most Hispanic man.
Mario Lopez was our new listener. We just defended him. Suck it, Slater. Anyways, back to our topic. Jurassic World. Kizh means houses. It says that they were identified as the people of the willow branch, tool, and brush houses. That's how they were identified, so that's why they go by this name.
Okay.
So that's some explanation on the name. I've also read the original people of Los Angeles being referred to as Yongna, and in other instances, I heard that was the name of a village. Yongna?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. Yongna, as a village, is located where City Hall is today, they said, like downtown LA. You know, right off the 110, 101 freeway, which was there at the time. I mentioned before how cultural assimilation was to blame for there being no definitive tribe name, but another factor in that matter was the fact that the Kizh had no written language, because they were oral. They had an oral tradition, but they've discovered many notebooks and diaries from Europeans of the day, and that's what these people had identified as. Kizh or Quichereno is respectful.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go. I'll be going for that.
Try.
I'm going to try to avoid Gabrielino and Tongva, which I will. Kizh is a term I'll use sparsely because I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. I don't want my time in here riddled with goofy mispronunciations, so I'll be calling them the original people of Los Angeles just to spare myself some embarrassment. But not only, they weren't just the original people of Los Angeles, their area spread also to northern Orange County as well as San Fernando Valley.
Well, that is Los Angeles, so...
Oh, boy. Maybe I haven't been part of this podcast this entire time. The remains of the Kizh have been found in about 40 county locations, areas like Pasadena, Long Beach, Encino, West LA, Costa Mesa, Fullerton, Santa Ana, Seal Beach, and Santa Catalina Island, Catalina.
Yep.
Their small villages were scattered throughout the LA Basin, what would be known as the LA River. They lived along that, and near the ocean, along the waterways and marshes of the coast as well. The central point, however, for the Kizh was what is now known to us as the San Gabriel Valley, which is east. I'm pointing and you can't see me. Their boundaries were actually pretty vast. Southward, it went to Laguna Beach, specifically Aliso Creek, San Gabriel Mountains on the east. The westward boundary stopped at the Pacific Ocean and included Catalina, Channel Islands, San Clemente, what?
Why didn't they keep spreading west? Just keep going.
Just keep going. What is that collection of boats out in the middle of the ocean? Oh, it's a tribe. Let's leave them alone. They went as far north as Ventura and some parts of Santa Barbara. And I've also read that they went as far as east as Redlands. There's a lot of information out there. A lot of the problems I had doing this research is there's just so much information, and I'm trying to collect
so go look
it
it up yourselves.
I'm just saying there's a lot out there. So if I'm wrong, like we should have announced at the beginning, hey, if we're wrong about this, we need no disrespect. Go ahead and email us the corrections, and we'll do a bonus episode and correct ourselves.
Feel free to subpoena us.
Emphasis on subpoena. Out of respect, I'm going to name some of the village in the San Gabriel Valley. The old villages. I can't really figure out where they were exactly. I don't know which village is where. I just want to name some of the villages because, you know, it's fun. Asus Anga is one of them. Alupkangna, Akuagna, Hahamongna, Tobingna, and Winingna.
You pronounced all of those wrong.
I'm pretty sure I did. I broke them down.
You haven't been going to the linguistic classes that I signed us up for leading up to this episode.
It's just, I can't do oral presentations. These areas would become known to us as Santa Anita, Santa Fe Springs, Pomona, La Puente, El Monte, and Azusa. There are Kizh words that still linger in Los Angeles, mostly place names. Satakoy is a Kizh word, Pacoima, Cucamonga, Azusa, Cahuenga, and Malibu. All Kizh words.
The boo.
The boo. There are 25 to 31 known sites believed to have been Kizh villages, each having had as many as 400 to 500 huts. They inhabited the LA area for thousands of years before the coming of Europeans. It's kind of strange. I've read the population of the Kizh so differently. Some readings say it's like from 1,000 to 10,000. Other books say 5,000 to 10,000 at any given time. I can't really get a good hold on it.
Almost as if their numbers were purposely tried to be forgotten. And
interesting. I hope you get to that.
I don't know.
No.
No.
I've also read somewhere that They hardly numbered between 300 and 500, but I'm starting to think that they meant villages. Like each village had 300,
There were
500.
definitely more than 500
of them, yeah. Culturally, they were of the Shoshonean background, and linguistically of the Uto-Aztecian.
I live off of Shoshone.
You do live. That's how I knew That's how I knew it. I kept coming across a word.
In a way, I guess I'm like 1/32nd Native American.
And that qualifies me to do this research here, to talk with authority on the matter. Linguistically, they were of the Uto-Aztecian family, although I've also read they spoke with a Shoshonean dialect, so I don't really know which one to believe. The Shoshone tribes were spread throughout what later was divided into Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, and Idaho, and were around since about 12,000 BC, so they said they migrated south, and that's what became the Kizh. The Kizh never farmed, but they were hunter and gatherers, hustlers, if you ask me. They relied on deer, rabbits, quail, ducks, geese, cranes, gophers, rats, gross, squirrels.
That's where they came from.
The plague. Reptiles.
Well, my name is Salamander, and I'm here to say.
You could have picked a much shorter name than Salamander, the lizard wizard.
The lizard wizard of the Kizh.
They chased small game and wore almost no clothes, like foot protection, and maybe that was it. Like headwear and foot protection.
What else do you need?
Sign me up. The Kizh tribe members who were out closer to the ocean ate clams and other tide pool fish. Most of the weapons...
And hot dog on a stick.
Hot dog on a stick, because it was out there at the time. And then they got cheese on a stick like, this isn't what we sent. This isn't what we want. Where's the beef? Which is what an original phrase.
It was a traditional war cry.
That's number 2. Most of the weapons and medical remedies were furnished from trees and plant life growing in the chaparral shrublands, which grows all over California. In those areas, you could find greasewood, scrub oak, sumac, sage, elderberry, and poison oak. Itchy. Let's talk acorns a little bit. They lived off of live oak trees, which produced acorns. This is something that is presented in all the readings about their culture. They are known for their reliance on acorns. Acorn processing represents a sophisticated adaptation to the environment, since the oak seed in its natural state contains lethal tannin, which is removed by the process of leaching and boiling, which they must have figured out after so many dead bodies. So this is taken from a website to describe the process for me. The acorns were dried, cracked open and peeled, and the acorn meat, chemesquar, would be pounded into a fine meal. I'm doing quotation marks because that's what the website said. Then a long leaching process would eliminate the toxic tannin and prepare the ground leached meal for the cooking process, which produced acorn porridge called weewish. Or the meal...
Yeah, they do. Oh, that's 2.
That's 3. Or the meal could be baked into small bread cakes called peshkak. I'm reading these words exactly like they're written. I'll repeat that. I'm reading these words exactly like they're written. I said that 2 times because I want to give everyone laughing an extra moment to wrap it up. Thank you.
Say it again.
Oak trees gave up really nice things. You could use it to treat eye infections if you took the oak gall, dried it, and ground it into a fine powder, which was really nice. They had medicine men on staff, so they could do stuff like that. They weren't farmers, but tribe members still worked hard during harvest season, gathering resources and stuff. They didn't just sit, work and eat like you and me. They enjoyed their day off fun.
We don't work.
They enjoyed day off fun too. Archery practice. They played around with cat's cradle. They had guessing games and hoop and pole sports, some of which they gambled on. I'll bet you 6 acorns you can't hoop the pole. Oh yeah? I'll see your 6 acorns and I'll raise you 8. Was a common conversation.
That's number 4.
Yeah, put 4 down.
Of the offensive things that we've been saying.
Gambling, it had to come up because acorns were also currency. I forgot to bring that up.
Was it really?
I read that somewhere. I read a lot of things. The men put together plank boats and rafts and floated over to Catalina and San Nicolas Islands. The women put together baskets, which you can see at the Southwest Museum. They have some of them. They carved steatite teads and pipes.
What?
Steatite. It's a stone, like soap. It's a form of soapstone.
I don't know what a soapstone is.
I remember I Wikipedia'd like 3 things and I came back.
I use Dove.
You mean you don't scrub yourself with a rock? You seriously, you don't put soap on a rock and then scrub your body with it?
I've been doing this all wrong.
They created their own religious rituals and societies, one involving jimsum weed.
I like where this is going.
Let me read.
Prop 68 is legalizing jimsum weed.
We were in a jimsum weed den, hanging out one day. Let me read some of the things that it causes because I looked it up because I was curious. It causes dry mouth, dilated pupils, high temperature but reduced sweating, in parentheses, and blurred vision.
That sounds great.
Psychological effects include confusion, euphoria, and delirium, my 3 favorite. Symptoms include incoherent speech, I must be on jimsum weed, impaired coordination, rapid heartbeat, and dry, flushed, or hot skin. In extreme cases, users can experience seizures, intense visual or auditory hallucinations, or cardiac arrest. All without hospitals.
How many acorns for a bag?
I had to beat my mother over the head to get a bag of acorns just to get a little jimsum weed. The original people of Los Angeles worshiped their own powerful god,
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Chinich Nich. which seems to have entered their social tales during the mission era, presumably to punch the Catholic God in the face.
Yeah, he's a lot stronger than God also.
He's super muscles. I've also read the name as Quarwar. That's another name that came up. Quarwar. Quaor. Quarwar. It's another name for Chinichni, Chinichni. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
I haven't understood 75% of what you've said to me so far.
You wouldn't.
What's an acorn?
You wouldn't have been able to survive. You wouldn't have dances with wolves or anything like that.
I would have been a little big man.
Mark that down as 2.
So we're at 7 offensive things and counting.
I found the most simplified version of Quarwar online. I'll read what they put together. According to Kizh mythology, Quarwar sings and dances the world and other deities into existence. Like in most other creation myths, at first there was chaos. Then along came Quarwar.
I love that movie.
He was sorrowed by the emptiness in existence and began to dance, whirl, and twirl all about while he sang the song of creation. God of the sky, Weywot, was first to be formed of the creation melody. Next came Chihuit, who became goddess of the earth. These 2 new deities joined in the dance and created the sun and the moon, Tamit and Mor, respectively. Together, these 5 sang and danced everything else into existence, animals, plants, people, and other gods as well. His work finished, Quarwar faded into obscurity, perhaps returned to wherever he came from originally. The Kizh didn't believe in evil spirits or any concept of hell or the devil until the Spanish missionaries introduced these ideas to their cultures. You'll get to that, I'm sure. Porpoises and owls. Keep your toes off my carpet. I don't know if that's the phrase, but it is now. Put that on a sticker.
The dog don't hunt.
It can't hunt. Porpoises and owls were highly esteemed and were hands off. It was never porpoise or owl season. You don't kill them.
There was a dead owl in my backyard
Was it really?
Not long ago. A huge dead owl.
Rats. The rats are fighting back because there's rats in their backyard.
That's true. But
plague rats.
You know, owl beats rat.
It's a numbers game.
I didn't know what to do because I knew that some of the tribes like to they want the owl feathers, but it's illegal and they wouldn't kill an owl. So I had this owl. I had all these feathers. What I'm trying to say is I ate the owl.
I didn't know what else to do.
Feathers and all.
Someone comes knocking on the door. Yeah, we're owl inspectors, and we thought maybe
there's 2 feet sticking out of my mouth.
Listen, it's not what you think. Owl will be damned if I'm gonna.
It's not an owl. It's a bald eagle.
What did you end up doing? I'm curious.
We put it in a bag and threw it in the trash. What else could we do? We called animal control, and they said just throw it away.
Really?
Because we didn't know how to contact a tribe.
Seems pretty easy to me.
1-800-TRIBAL.
8.
Tribal 8. It's got to fit into the grid.
The tribe had religious ceremonies in a circular structure within their village. The structure could only be entered by select males of status in the community and close relatives in the event of funerary ceremonies. Female singers were also allowed. Sounds like a speakeasy. As much reading as I've done, I haven't come across the Povugna as much. Povugna. Povugna. I'm going to go ahead and say that wrong. You told me to look into it because they said it was really popular. Here's what I know. I know it's a special place. I believe it was a place of worship for the Kizh. I know that it is now known as Rancho Los Alamitos and has been listed twice on the National Register of Historic Places. If any listeners know about this, I'm very interested in it.
Isn't it supposed to be like where the world started, according to them?
I think it was. I think that it was an ancestral site of the Kizh and most likely where the tribe originates. I also read that same thing about the San Gabriel Valley. So it might be like a myth, part of mythology that it starts there in Povugna.
It's not true.
Oh my God! All that evolution classes I took. I wrote a 12-page paper
discrediting Quomar, smearing the good name of Darwin and Quomar.
I looked it up online. I was trying to do a lot of research in books, but it doesn't come up that often. And I don't know. I want to know more about it.
It's not easy to research the beliefs of a tribe that's been mostly destroyed.
The Kizh were a peaceful tribe. Warfare was not frequent for them. Robbery, murder, and incest was rare, which is good. Keep that stuff out. To fail to show courage was the height of disgrace among the Kizh males. Men would lie on top of red anthills and have handful of red ants dropped onto their face as a demonstration of courage.
God.
They also had to deal with whippings and trials by fire. If you failed to endure these trials, you earned a reputation of being a sissy pants. Me and you would have been sissy pantses.
We would have been the first to be sacrificed. Did they sacrifice?
The gods wouldn't trade anything for us. You sacrifice those two. Here's 3 years of snow and rain.
This is what you
floods.
I give you acorns, and this is what you give me.
Two sissy pants, two Nancy boys.
They didn't allow incest, but they would make exceptions for us.
The Kizh introduced boys to manhood through fasting, hallucinogenic rituals, most likely from gypsum weed, and trials of endurance. An experienced elderly man served to instruct the boys in the legends of the world's origins and their future, so they were instructed from older generations, because it was an oral tradition to pass these stories and these rituals forward. The boys sought visions of their own special animal protector. These ceremonies were believed to provide the boys with a spiritual nature, which is, again, like I said, boys got to grow up sometime. One of the readings that I was doing pointed out that the Kizh were the Southern California tribe that paddled out to sea to greet Spanish explorer Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo upon his arrival onto the shores of Catalina in 1542.
I can confirm that.
And Cabrillo declined their invitation to come ashore and visit, but he eventually gave in.
Well, all right.
All right, fine.
Is that acorn?
Is that gypsum weed?
Oh, I shouldn't.
There are many historical items, and I hear some human remains at LACMA, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, which is right next to La Brea Tar Pits, where you could also see the first citizen of Los Angeles as well. In 2005, out in Bolsa Chica wetlands, which is south of Seal Beach, construction workers unearthed the remains of 174 Kizh tribe members. When activists demanded that the real estate developers halt construction to properly examine the dead and take the scope of the stunning discovery, the vice president of the company said, "Oh, it's just another obstacle to overcome," and carried on with the construction anyways.
And just dumped it in the river? Dumped all the bones in the river?
What happened was, I think they managed to get pictures out of everything, so they saw what they're, but still.
But where did the bones go?
That's the name of the episode. Where did the bones go? Back to Bolsa Chica. It's one of Southern California's last wetland habitats, but they keep wanting to build these like multi-million-dollar houses on there. So it's constantly in threat of being wiped out, like it was before. The archaeologists discovered that it was not only a village, but also a regional religious destination that predated the Egyptian pyramids and imperial China.
Wow.
Yeah, they say it's really old. Like more than 9,000 years of continual living. Along with almost 200 human burials and animal burials, including a dolphin, there was an unusual rich array of artifacts.
And a dolphin, too.
God, what's that book called?
Island of the Blue Dolphins.
You're the best. When I was like...
that dolphin movie? Flipper.
When I was in the third grade, we were reading Island of the Blue Dolphin, and I wrote on a giant piece of paper. I wrote so big so my friend from across the room can read, "Why doesn't she eat the dog?" Because there's nothing to eat. And the teacher's like, "What are you passing him?" Like, nothing.
I've never read it.
Wow. I feel like an idiot.
As you should.
They also found a lot of cogstones and crystals and other religious instruments. A lot of this, I think, could be found at LACMA, I believe.
LACMA or LACMA?
They're locking a lot of information.
It's like LACMA, but it's like more private. More secured.
Anyways, the development company completely obliterated the terrain, which, very nice of them. So here's something I didn't know about stuff like this. State law recommends developers have a Native American monitor on site during land grading, and developers are supposed to halt construction and contact local law enforcement when remains are found. If the bones are determined to be Native American, authorities have to contact the NAHC, the Native American Heritage Commission, which then selects from a list of most likely descendants. They send somebody out there to see if it's a site that has to be protected or not. That's a law. But here's the thing about that. Even if the monitor is legitimate, developers ultimately don't need to care. They can move on anyways. So I don't know why it's a law or how enacted that law is. I've never heard of it before. The Kizh weren't the only tribes here in Southern California. There was another one, the Chumash, which was actually closer to Malibu, and it ran up the coast. Ran up the coast of Ventura and somewhat in Santa Barbara. The Chumash also refer to themselves as the first people here and claim the Pacific Ocean as their home first. Dibs.
Liars.
9. They say they have had as many as tens of thousands of tribe members at once, which sounds like a lot. I know that their population is still really big, and they also have a casino. I've also read when the missions began to pop up, they had something like 22,000 people in the Chumash community. So the numbers are all over the place.
Yeah. Again, when a genocide happens, there aren't very accurate records of what was around before.
Like I said, they lived along the coast, so they were seafaring people. They spent much of their time building small boats and fishing. They were really, really good fishermen.
How were they at surfing? They were gnarly, but they weren't bodacious.
They didn't hang 10 as much as they could have. They actually wrote Wipeout because they weren't good at surfing.
That was an ancient Chumash tribal song. And that's 7?
I think we're up to 10 now. They were said to be a more sophisticated craftsman than their Kizh neighbors to the south. The Chumash were able to enjoy a more prosperous environment, mostly because they were so good at fishing. They were so used to dealing with the ocean and making the best of it.
Well, it was theirs after all.
Their culture was more advanced with basketry, stone cookware, the ability to harvest and store food as well. The villages became much more permanent. The other tribes, the smallest group of the original people of Los Angeles, go by Tataviam, but people also, because of the mission of San Fernando, they got the name Fernandenos. Am I saying it right? Do you know if I'm saying it right?
Well, it's got the little thing there.
Yeah.
Fernandinho.
They had sites of about 20 early Teton villages in the San Fernando Valley and Santa Clarita, mostly in Santa Clarita. They were believed to have numbered about 1,000 people and were heavily influenced by the culture of their neighbors, the Chumash and the Kizh. So they were like a little brother tribe. But 11, that's rude.
12 for rudeness.
Unnecessary roughness. Okay, I'm done. Oh my god.
You've got to find a less abrupt ending to that.
Anyways, I'm done.